Nice. Cool. All right, guys. Thank you. Sit down. Lesson 1. Who's the champ? Yell it out. Jesus is the champ. Haven't heard that one before. Who's the champ, guys? Me, Jesus, you. All right. Okay, first lesson. The champ is the person sitting down next to you. How many of you want to move right now? Okay, so I'm gonna explore that a little bit later on. I know some of you thought, yeah, that was a bit of fun. Some of you thought, oh, that's so lame. But everything I do, there's an important lesson into it. So humour me, and over the next hour, we're gonna have some fun. Well, I am. I don't know about you guys, but we'll see. Okay, first of all, I want to get straight into it. What is entrepreneurship? What do you guys think? Let's explore it. So turn to the person next to you, the champ, and ask them, what do you think entrepreneurship is? All right, let's do with our guest, Trinity. What's entrepreneurship? Yell it out. What do you think? Risk taker. Cool. What else?
Making a business.
Sorry? Making a business. Cool. What else? Innovation. Solving problems. Cool. Interesting. Like how you think. What do you guys think? Sorry? Successfulness. Love it. You? Business. Cool. What else? Yeah. Being creative. Cool. Starting up something new? Ah, interesting. This is very interesting. So you guys are year 10s and you guys are year... This is fascinating. This is fascinating. So, what's the average age of you guys? What, 13, 14, 15? 15, 16? What's the average age of you guys? 11, 12. So, what I'm seeing here is really interesting. These guys, a few of you said it, but not all of you, these guys are more creative and you guys are more logical. That isn't necessarily a good thing. Let me tell you why. A lot of people think entrepreneurship is about business. They're all wrong. It's not about business. It's about something so much more powerful and so much more important. Entrepreneurship is really about how you think. Entrepreneurship is about how you think. And what scares me right now, and we've got a bit of time together, so hopefully you guys will come alive, is that you guys from Trinity aren't thinking as much as you should be. You guys are thinking way too much.
Oh, that's great.
It is. It's interesting, right? So let's go a bit deeper. How many of you, raise your hand, how many of you know exactly what you want to be when you finish school? Raise your hand. Okay, so we got maybe about 11, 10 of you. Congratulations. How many of you have no clue what you want to do? Trinity, are you asleep? Okay, cool. Interesting. Now, for those of you who know what you want to do, congratulations. You will spend the rest of your lives seeking out people, information, connections, and other sources of knowledge to help you get to where you want to be, because you know where you want to go. Congratulations. It might change, but congratulations, you know exactly what you're going to do. For the rest of you who have no clue, you're going to have even more fun trying to figure it out. So, how many of you, who wants to be a doctor? A few doctors around? Yep. Doctor, what do we hear? Pilot, yep, pilot. Cool. Yell out, what do you guys want to do? Yell it out. Sorry, a vet? Yeah, cool, vet. What else? Sorry, a lawyer? Cool, yep. Nurse? Cool, sorry. I've got a whole group here. Give me a break, all right? Cool. So can I give you an idea that'll help you no matter what you want to do? Do it like an entrepreneur. Do it like an entrepreneur. I haven't got the slide up here, but I have 3 best friends. Only 3. They cost too much otherwise. And they are all doctors. We grew up together, but they're the doctors. I'm the dumb one. But what's so interesting is that two of them became specialized in their fields. And do you know what happens when a doctor becomes specialized in their field? They have to have their own practice. So essentially, they have to run their own business. And so even though they're doctors, they have to be business people, but not entrepreneurs. That's where they ring me up and I say, what the hell are you doing? You should do this. So it's funny because as you'll see later on when you hear my story, I came from, well, you'll hear it anyway, but I came from a very different world. Pluto, no. I came from a very restrictive and very negative world, and I had to do a whole bunch of stuff to transform all that negativity and create opportunities for myself. So let's keep going. What really excites me about entrepreneurship is that because it's about how you think. What really excites me is that entrepreneurship is really about how you see the rest of the world. And you got to see things differently. And if you take a look around you right now, every single thing you see was once just an idea in someone's head. And now through the magic of entrepreneurship, it's here in front of you today. Every single thing you see. That's powerful. Doctors can't say that, lawyers can't say that. And what gets me excited is that the next big idea could come from this room. That's powerful. I'm not saying it will, I'm saying it could, right? That's up to all of you. Because essentially, right now, take a look around the room. This is the future of Australia right here. How many of you want to leave town? So the next big idea could come from this room. Let's keep going. All right, so my story, traditional path versus real world. I want to introduce you to my dad. So my background is Sri Lankan. I have very conservative, strict parents. And the only thing my dad used to say to me when I was growing up was two words: go study. Because he came from a world where you needed good grades to succeed in life. Very different world than it is today, except I was growing up in a world where I just wasn't academically gifted enough to get the grades I needed to fulfill his standards. So life growing up for me was not very happy at all, because constantly, every time I left my room, I was made to feel like a failure. Why? Because I just couldn't get the A. And that was the thing. He always say, son, you must get the A, otherwise no one will listen to you. He didn't really talk like that. He was much worse. But, you know, I'm not allowed to swear here. So can you imagine what that's like when you've got your own parents thinking that you're a failure? Not because you're a bad person, not because you did anything bad, but because you're not smart enough. And every single day of my life, growing up, especially when I was your age, I was made to feel like a failure. And it's annoying. It's really annoying. So when I started, so you heard how I had all these businesses, or not real businesses, but entrepreneurial adventures. It's because I was always curious. I was always playful. I was always creative. But I was forced to give that up trying to pursue my studies. And you'll hear a bit more of my story as we go along, right? And I don't know what it was, but something inside me would have a look at other people doing different things. And inside my head, I always wanted to be like, well, if they're doing it, I want to do it too. And that is my whole life story. I'm constantly, like, you know, Dad's no longer around, but I'm constantly meeting with people who just have no creativity. And they always say, AJ, it can't be done. You can't do it. It's impossible. I've made a career out of doing impossible things. It's because I thought differently. I saw something out there and I was like, right, so I know it can be done. I just don't know how to do it. And then it was my job to work out how to do it. So one of the things I did was I managed to get into a magazine overseas, an international magazine. And as you can see, Dad said, it's impossible to achieve anything. Well, there I am in the magazine, right? I think I'm the first person from the family to get into that magazine. It's a business magazine. It's from Sri Lanka internationally. Because I was born and raised in Australia, so whenever I go to Sri Lanka, they go, "Oh, you're an Australian. How is life over there?" And they don't consider me Sri Lankan. So that was a great achievement, you know. And part of me always loved rubbing it in for my dad, you know. So this is the whole story about my childhood, you know. Like, it's just so many people have ideas on how things should be done in the world, but sometimes those ideas aren't right for you, and your success in whatever career that you want to do is up to you. If you want to do something different, you have to figure out how to do it. That is so important. I can't tell you how important that is. You know, you guys are all here today simply because one person or a couple of people believe that, you know what, we do some amazing stuff here at Somerset for the literature world. I want to do something similar for entrepreneurship. And because that person did that, all of you are here today learning about how to be entrepreneurs in your career. That's amazing. That just blows my mind. So the world is changing, and the future that you all have to move into, it's different. No one can put their hand up and say, hey, this is exactly how it's going to look. You're all going to be sitting best friends with robots. No one knows it for sure. And they don't know when it's going to happen. So my goal today is to teach you how to think so that no matter what happens, you'll be able to handle it. Does that sound all right? Cool. Let's keep going. I want to tell you the story about how I started my business, because this is essentially what started everything for me. So long story short, I went to Monash University and in Victoria, and then I went back home to Darwin, and I got the most beautiful job in the world, as I thought it would be. I was an IT consultant for a very good firm. And I started doing it, and me being me, I rose up through the ranks very quickly. I had a corner office in about 3 months, while other graduates were still out in the open area. And my career just skyrocketed. And it skyrocketed because my boss came to me and said, hey, or I would go to my boss, and she looked stressed, and I'd say, boss, you look stressed. Is there anything I can do? And she says, I got to do this stack of paperwork, and there's all these tenders I got to put in, and AJ, you don't know anything about tenders, do you? I knew nothing about tenders. Well, what I did was I didn't tell her that. I said, no, boss, but I can learn. No, but I can learn grew my career so quickly. No, but I can learn. And then she said, all right, here you go, stack of papers. And then I had to learn how to do it, and I learned so much. And a lot of my career was doing that job was built on learning stuff on the fly. No one taught me how to do stuff. I would go and figure it out myself and then produce stuff. Then one day, as the company was expanding, they had a person come in who was the second in command. So I had to report to him. He had a very different view of the world. And me and my culture, Sri Lankan culture, we're subservient. So we love to serve others. So as soon as he walked in there, he said, I need my computer set up. So I'm like, no worries, sir. I'll get that done for you. So I set it all up. And from that moment, he thought I was a techie. He couldn't see me as anything else but just a computer technician. It doesn't matter that I'd done tenders. It didn't matter I had projects. It didn't matter I was building software. It didn't matter any of that. He just saw me as a technician. And that's all he ever did. So whenever opportunity came to work on a project, I wouldn't get it because I'm the techie. Okay, so this went on, and the moment that killed my career was when he came to me and he said to me, AJ, I want you to do this course. And I said to him, I don't need to do it. And he goes, all right, why? I said, because I've already done it. That shows that I've already built software that shows that I know this stuff. So there's no real reason why I should do this. He goes, all right. And then he went away. And that night, I used to be the first in the office and last to leave, right? And that night he came back to me when everyone else left, and he said to me, listen, about this course I want you to go on, I want you to think about it. Go home and think about it and tell me your answer tomorrow. I'm like, yeah, all right, whatever. So I went home, thought about it, not doing it. Went back the next morning, and I went up to him, I said, boss, I didn't call him boss, I said, I've thought about that project and I've decided not to do it. He goes, is that your final answer? I said, yes. And then I walked out, and he walks out in front of everyone else, and he says to me, you better be damn sure that that's your final answer because you're making a career decision right now. So tell everyone now what's your answer going to be. And I was like, nah, not doing it. He goes, right. That was the moment my career died. Because every moment on from there, this guy tried to sabotage my career. He wouldn't let me get any opportunities to work on new projects. And you know what? I thought, you know what? I don't need this. I'm gonna leave and do something else in other areas of the company. The company was quite big. There were offices all around Australia. And the person that I would go to another office and I'd talk to them and they would love me. They saw this keen, young, energetic person with full of knowledge and ideas. And they say, yes, we want you. We don't care that Darwin doesn't want you. We want you. So I'm like, cool, sorted. Then I'd get back. And then all of a sudden, these people that really wanted me, they wouldn't get back to me. And this happened every office I went to. And I was thinking, what the hell is going on here? This is ridiculous, right? And it was absolutely ridiculous. And so I was thinking, what's going on? And I found out that the boss was saying, to get my transfer, the boss was actually telling him, listen, AJ's all talk. He doesn't know what he's doing. So you don't want someone like him. So he wouldn't let me leave, and he wouldn't let me grow my career. So my career just died, and I turned into a really, I was so sad, and no one would stand up for me. I'd go talk to my parents, right, and they'd be like, well, he's your boss, you must follow the boss. Like, but he's wrong. He's still the boss. And my colleagues, they wouldn't stand up for me because they needed their job. Why the hell would they stand up for this crazy guy, So no one would help me. So how did I go from there to starting my own business? Well, on TV, I suddenly saw something. I turned on the TV and I saw this show. It's called The Apprentice. And for the first time ever in my life, I saw young people in business. I'd never seen that before because in my time, young people weren't in business. They were at school learning how to get good grades and get a nice job, So I saw this and I was like, wow. They can do it. So I became obsessed with this show and I learned wow, this is really cool. And then I went up to my boss and I quit my job and then I started, this was my company, Black Magic ICT, something different. I knew nothing about business, nothing. But I knew I had competent skills and I could figure the rest out, And I think there was one other guy who was an IT consultant, but he had no vision for his business. He was just doing something. I wanted to grow a business that put my former employer out of business, right? That's what I was really driven like that, right? And you'd think other people, today you see a young person in business and everyone's like, oh, you're in business, cool, how can I help? Back in then, no one helped me. I would go into a room and, full of adults and I was the youngest one in the room by 20 odd years. And you know what they say to me? They say, kid, you're lost? I'm like, no, I'm here for the tender briefing. They're like, tender briefing? Don't you mean the library? I'm like, oh, yeah, you're right, all right. Let me get you a book. Oh, I forgot, you can't read. Dumbass. And then like, who the hell is this guy, And then I'd sit down there and no one gave me any credit. No one gave me any attention until I started winning. And I won all these tenders. I won so much business. And then their staff would quit and join my firm, Black Magic. And all of a sudden they'd be reading their gazettes, looking at, what is this firm Black Magic winning? Who is Black Magic? And then they'd get all these notifications from their staff saying, I'm leaving to join Black Magic. Who the hell is Black Magic? So that was me. So I knew that I wanted to stand out from the crowd and I needed to do something crazy, right? And I knew I want people to know who I am. So I went out and I bought a brand new Ferrari. Here's a photo. You laugh and think, that's pretty lame. This won me so much business. So the reason why it's a Ferrari laptop is Acer have a partnership. This is Acer laptop. Acer have a partnership with Ferrari. Ferrari does Formula One. So they built a Formula One laptop. So this is carbon fiber. It's the actual same material that's actually on the Formula One cars. And yeah, it's got the red stripes and whatever. And then when the thing starts up, it goes, vroom, totally gamut, right? But this thing won me so much work. Why? Because every other consultant had the standard black laptop. So I'm on site with heaps of clients around, and I pull this thing out. They go, "What the hell is that? Is that a Ferrari laptop?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's a Ferrari laptop, carbon fiber lid, and Ferrari sponsored the thing." Like, damn, that's crazy. Then they go to the tea room, and the tea room they're like, "Hey, did you see the consultant with a Ferrari laptop? There's a Ferrari laptop. I love Formula One. Oh my god, what are you doing here?" You know, I'm like, "Well, I'm here. Well, you know, this is great. Wow. So what are you doing here?" "Well, I'm actually building a database for these guys." "You do databases?" "Oh, can we have a chat?" Repeat that. Won me so much work. It's brilliant. No one else did it. Figure out in your own careers what's going to be your Ferrari. Let's keep going. So I did all this crazy stuff. I won Young Achiever of the Year. I was in all the papers. It's so funny. I just have to tell you this, right? So this is Minister at the time, and I'm winning. And I didn't know I was going to win, but I went all out. You know, I hired a limo, got some friends together. I took my parents, and we all went to the function, and we celebrated on one, right? And I'm on stage winning Young Achiever of the Year, and my dad, right, he'd had a few too many wines, and he's just sitting there going, you know, like, it's ridiculous. Sits back, and he leans back, and he talks to my friend. Says, "See, this fellow never did anything what I told him. Now look at him." And then few days later, he goes, "Right, you have the award, now time for PhD." I'm like, oh, God. Never ends. This was a particular interesting time for me. I always do crazy stuff, right? So this was a particularly interesting time. So I did a speaking tour a few years ago in Sri Lanka. I wanted to push my speaking skills to the next level, and I wanted to go international. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to reach out to some of my cousins, because I'm really well connected over there. I've got cousins that'll open up so many doors. They're powerful. They're in with the government. They have multi-million-dollar businesses. So I reached out to them and said, "Hey, listen, I want to come speak to Sri Lanka, right? I want to come speak in Sri Lanka. I want to inspire people to think like entrepreneurs, pretty much what I'm doing here today." And you know what they all said? They said, "AJ, come on board. We'd love to see you. Of course we're going to help family." No, I'm just kidding. Not one of them said, "Yeah, we can help you." Not one of them. And these guys are so well connected. Not one of them said they could. Worse, they tried to persuade me not to come. They were like, "AJ, listen, you're from Aussie land, no? Australia is very different to Sri Lanka. So, you know, your accent, no one can understand you. You know, it won't work. Why don't you come and get a job here? And maybe in 5 or 6 years' time, then you can do this speaking nonsense, okay?" And I was like, why won't anyone help me? Damn it. So you know what I did? I just went and did it myself anyway, right? So I won't go into the whole story, but long story short, I sent out a tweet. You guys heard of Twitter? I sent out a tweet. Someone saw that, said, "Hey, can you come speak at this place?" And I went there and I spoke, and then I got all this business, and it was wonderful. This gig was interesting, right? So everyone I spoke to said, "It's impossible, you can never do it, we're not going to help, well, you shouldn't do it, it can't be done," right? This gig was very interesting. This is a charity gig. Someone paid for me to be a guest speaker at this charity gig, and you can't really see it, but there's 200 people in the room there, all right? 200 people, and they didn't just come from the heart of Sri Lanka, they came from all over the country to see me. 200 people come from all over the country to see me. That was amazing. Right? That was a very pivotal moment for me. Now, what's so interesting was the organizers of this, right? It's a family business. And the sister in the family, she was the one, her daughter saw me doing speaking gigs or whatever and said, you know, "Mum, you got to get this guy." So Mum goes, "Okay, daughter, whatever you want." And she hired me. And then they're so excited to work with me, and that was really cool. And then I fly there. I fly there to do this gig. And then I say, "How many tickets have you sold?" And they said, "Here's the problem, we haven't sold any." And then the brother comes in, right? He goes, "Listen, Mr. AJ," because that's how we roll. "Mr. AJ, no one knows you here. I'm struggling to understand you. We just can't sell anyone. We can't sell any tickets. So very sorry about this, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen." And I said to him, "Give me 5 minutes, and let me tell you why this is the best decision that your sister has made." And I did. And he's like, "My God, this is amazing. Let's get this guy on radio." And so I went on radio, sold out. We sold, what is it, 200 tickets. We sold 200 tickets in a couple of days. These guys had it for 6 weeks. And I'm going to tell you what I said later on. But yeah, so I'm always doing the impossible. Always. And how do I do it? Because I always ask how. Remember, entrepreneurship is about thinking. It's about how you think, right? When you start asking how can I do this? How can I make it happen? How can I get this grade? How can I do business? How can I become a doctor? How? Your brain switches on and says, right, this is how you can do it. And you get it done. The funny thing is, people don't think. And this is what frustrates me the most. Because I'm not an angry person, right? I don't usually get angry. Like I had my first incident of road rage where this guy really he was trying to ram his car into me and I didn't get angry, right? But when someone does something stupid, oh my God, it drives me insane because I can't handle it, So people just don't think. I'll give you an example, right? I love chocolate sundaes from Macca's. And so I go get a chocolate sundae, and I get the sundae, and the girl that served me, she's just looking at me point blank, and she gives me the sundae, and I take the sundae, and then she gives me a fork. Who eats ice cream with a fork? And I've taken it. I've gone, no, sorry, I haven't taken it. I've just looked at it. I've gone, really? She's like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, why aren't you thinking? And then I had to call the manager over and say, listen, I'm not going to eat. You can't eat ice cream with a fork. Can I please have a refund? She's like, yeah, no worries. But that was that extra step. People don't think. I've got so many stories on how people don't think. It's ridiculous, right? So it's default. And let me tell you why this is a problem. Does anyone know what this building is? It's Moscow State University. And I got a story about this. And rather than me telling you the story, I'll give you guys a break and I'm going to shut up, but I'm going to play a video for you. Imagine the following. Two candidates go in for a job interview at Moscow State University. Now, it's not a group interview, so they have to get interviewed individually. First candidate goes in, gets a whole bunch of questions, but at the last minute, the interviewer decides to throw in a surprise question. They ask the candidate, how tall is the spire on top of the main building? And the candidate smiles to himself because he knows the answer to this question. He tells the professor, I actually studied this building in architecture class, so I know the exact height of the spire is 57 meters tall. Great, says the professor. Don't call us, we'll call you, because that's how they roll in Moscow. Then the second candidate goes into the room, and it's exactly the same story. All these questions followed up with, how tall is the spire on the main building of the university? But unlike the first candidate, this one says an entirely different answer. She says, listen, professor, I'm really sorry, but I don't know the height of the spire off the top of my head. But if you will just give me 5 minutes, I'm sure I can come up with an answer for you. And the professor is intrigued, so he says, you can have your 5 minutes. So she bolts out of the classroom, runs through the corridor, down the stairs, out through the main doors, and she glances at her watch quickly and then gazes up at the sky and tries to find the position of the sun. And then she measures the length of the shadow of the spire along the ground. And she runs through some calculations and quickly runs back inside and she says to the professor, okay, I believe the spire is approximately 56 to 57 meters tall, give or take a few centimeters. Now, these are two entirely different approaches to answering that question, but they yielded almost exactly the same results. So my question to you is, which one of these candidates would you hire? Which one would you hire? First one or the second one? Yell it out.
Second.
You guys still awake? Yeah. Second? Yeah, cool. Awesome. Why? Let's hear from Trinity. They've been quiet. Trinity, why? Second candidate. Yell it out. She what? Thought about it? Yep. She what? Shows interest? Yep. Problem solving? Yep. What else? Would you? Why? Interesting. Interesting. So what she said was that they've done preparation for the interview, they've done research on how tall the spire is, and they've prepared for the interview, and they've done research to show interest in where they want to work. Interesting. Very valid point. Very valid point. Here's the problem, though. The first candidate could only answer that question with knowledge that they already had. How many of you today know exactly what the future is going to look like? Exactly. No one. This is a big problem. You won't see it at the school age, but when you start doing work and building up your career, you'll see just how big companies have no clue what they're doing. Everyone's running around trying to figure out what's going on. Okay? So, very valid point. If I go in there, it shows initiative, it shows I'm prepared, but it was pure luck that that was the question that I got asked and I knew it. The thing about being an entrepreneur is that you have to look at what's going on a bigger picture, and you have to look at what's around you. The second candidate got hired because they were placed in an unfamiliar circumstance, but they knew how to get the answers. If you have a look at my whole career, it's driven by me not knowing answers, but seeing an end result. You need to know how to get the answers. Comes back to how to think. How. Let's keep going. Now, like I said, this isn't a problem at school age, right? But when you start getting into the workforce, it becomes a massive problem. This is from a business called Max Brenner. Has anyone heard of Max Brenner? Yeah, Max Brenner? Yeah, Max Brenner, cool. Does anyone know what the story is with Max Brenner? They shut down, yeah. 600 people got fired. Do you know why? Because they didn't think like an entrepreneur. What was so weird, though, was that about 5-6 years ago, they appeared in an entrepreneurial magazine saying they are on the Young Rich list, which are all for entrepreneurs. And they were rich enough to make that list. I think at the time, the cutoff was 20 million. So they had $20 million. They had a business that was worth $20 million. You know, they had money in their pockets. They were business owners. They were classified as entrepreneurs. And now they no longer exist. Because they didn't think like an entrepreneur. You can't really see it here. I think that's a bit of ice cream. Right? And now this, when you go to a Max Brenner restaurant, the ice cream says, Max Brenner's ice cream. This, over the last few months or since the start of the year, was actually Coles ice cream. And they were pretending to sell it off as Max Brenner. And do you know why they did all that? Because they couldn't afford to pay their bills, because they were so busy thinking like, we want to expand. We want 7 new stores this year and we need to expand. But we can't pay our bills. Don't worry about that. We'll just expand, you know. That's not how an entrepreneur thinks. That is not how an entrepreneur thinks. Entrepreneurs look at what is the worst that could happen, how can I stop this from happening, or what could go wrong and how do I fix it or prevent it from happening. The reason why they went bust is because a plasterer, someone who does walls, lodged one single A4 piece of paper, or maybe a couple of A4 pieces of paper with the court that says, listen, these people have not paid their bills. I want you to shut them down. That's why they went out of business. They didn't think. They didn't pay their bills. They were selling Coles ice cream, and now 600 people have no job. They have no money to pay their bills. They cannot go home and put food on the table with their families. 600 people. Just because 2 people at the top did not think like an entrepreneur. And we see the story. You're going to hear so many more in the papers and the media. You're going to see so many stories of businesses going bust. There's Toys R Us. Biggest US retailer, Sears, closed their doors yesterday, I think it was. More and more people are going bust. Businesses are going bust. Why? Because they don't think like an entrepreneur. I don't want to hear any stories from you ever being in that position. Because you got to think. Let's keep going. What happens when you think like an entrepreneur? I've told you what happens when you don't. Let me tell you a really good, a feel-good story about what it means to be an entrepreneur. You get to change the world. Change the world and solve some of the world's biggest problems. That's exciting. Do you know what this is? Does anyone know what this is? It's what? It's the what, sorry? Bingo! You know how many times I put that up in a room full of adults? And everyone's like, no, what's that? Is it a wind farm? Congratulations, man. You're smarter than all the adults I've hung around for a while. This is the Tesla wind farm, Hornsdale Power Reserve, right? This little thing started off a tweet. Started from a tweet. One of Australia's most successful entrepreneurs, they were talking about there's been power problems in South Australia and Victoria and Sydney and all of that. There's big problems with the energy requirements there. And as a joke, Tesla, one of the Tesla executives over in the US of A, said, hey, if I bet you that if we were involved in this, we could solve those problems in 100 days. You know, and one of the Australian entrepreneurs saw this and he said, how serious are you about that bet? If I could make this happen politically and came up with money, could you do it? And then Elon Musk, the owner of Tesla, he goes, how about we do it in 100 days or it's free? Is that serious enough for you? And they're like, okay. And while all this is happening, government got involved and they're like, no, it needs to be policies and procedures and procurement and no, we need rules and regulations and governance and all that. So while everyone's arguing, Tesla went ahead and built this. They went to government and got approval, the local government got approval, and they built this. And it took them 100 days. And now this, a couple of months ago, solved the energy crisis for the rest of Australia down south. Off a tweet. That's entrepreneurship. You get to solve problems that haven't even been created yet. Or you get to solve problems that are now here, that traditional channels cannot solve. That's exciting. So, I want to help you guys think like an entrepreneur. I want to give you 3 quick ideas. First one, create more than you consume. Create more than you consume. How many of you play Fortnite? Ooh, this is very interesting. None of you guys play Fortnite? It's what? How come? New game just came out. What's the new game?
2K.
Okay, I have no idea what you're talking about, which is interesting. We got to keep in touch, man. Physio? Osteo? Osteopath, cool. Yeah, cool. All right, thank you. So the funny thing about Fortnite is that it's... has anyone ever... those of you who play Fortnite, put your hand up. Okay, interesting. Keep your hand up. Keep your hand up if you spent money on the game. All right, cool. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, you can put your hand down. Cool. Thank you. Right. What's so interesting about Fortnite? Just out of curiosity, has anyone made money from Fortnite out of you guys who play it? Sorry, someone has? No? No? No one's made any money out of Fortnite. You know why? Because Fortnite was created to consume. It gets you hooked, and then you go to your parents or yourself if you've got money and you spend money on the game. And who benefits? The persons who created the game. This is fascinating to me. Like, everyone's gone nuts over Fortnite. And now, I know you guys are a bit older, so maybe it's not up to you. Maybe there's a new game. Maybe you're just not interested, right? But it's interesting to see that if you create something, most of the world consume. So the trick is, be a creator more than you are a consumer. Question. It's created for what? Adults. Yeah, because there's heaps of adults around there too. It's not just a kids game. You're right. Very valid point. But it's still create more than you consume. The entrepreneurial mind. Remember when I was in Sri Lanka and that guy said to me, no one knows you, no one can understand what you speak. And I said to him, give me 5 minutes, let me tell you why this is the best decision. So what I did was I walked him through this model, which is how all entrepreneurs think. You have an idea and you turn it into an outcome. And then you need to go through these 3 barriers. The first barrier is that internal voice in your head that says, you are not good enough. That voice is loud for a lot of people. You need to build up self-confidence in yourself and your abilities. Once you are self-confident, then you have to convince others that you're not crazy, right? So that's a challenge in itself. And lastly, you have to have a good idea. And when you believe in it yourself and you communicate it out there to the rest of the world, and you have a good idea, or you test good ideas, you will always achieve the outcome and become an entrepreneur. Last one. The champ is here. This unlocked a lot of thinking for me and unlocked a lot of things, right? You can have everything in life you want if you will just help enough other people get what they want. And this is Zig Ziglar. He's an old school motivational speaker. When I heard this, it changed the way I thought about everything. Because entrepreneurship is really about solving problems, how you think differently to solve problems, right? And if you just focus on the person sitting next to you and make sure that you solve their problems and they solve yours. I love that you guys look at each other, right? That's hilarious. But if you see the person next to you, right, and you say, hey, what's going on? These are my problems. And you solve their problems and they do the same for you, then beautiful things happen. And this happens in business too. Max Brenner, the person you're sitting next to in any business is your customer. A lot of businesses don't sit with their customers. It's fascinating. It seems obvious, but they don't. They sit back and they think, oh, you know, we know what we're doing. And the customers don't like it and they go bust. So if you get this and you take care of the person next to you, the champ, you will succeed in your careers, you will succeed in business, you will succeed in life. Always look at taking care of those around you, solving problems. I'm going to close now with this one story. And it sums up everything I've been talking about. So, this kid, his name's Robert, hence the name Robert's Story. And he was a kid I met in high school. And I was doing some speaking and he came up to me and he said, hey, I love what you said. Can I have a job? And I was like, nah, you can't have a job. And then he said, hey, can I get a photo instead? Oh, creative, I'll give you a photo. So I sat with him and took this photo, all right? Not the best photo. I have no idea who that guy is up the back. He looks creepy. But but anyway, a couple of months later, his teacher rang me up and she said, hey, do you remember Robert? Vaguely. Well, he's failing school and all he wants to do is get a job in IT, but no one will give him a chance. Do you have any work for him? I said, no. She's like, oh, okay. And I said, but I remember him. He seems very interesting. I will go out there and meet him. So I went and met him and I said, hey, champ, you don't look like the dumbest thing on the planet. Why are you failing school? And he said to me, well, AJ, they take me out to the beach, they give me a compass and ask me to find my way back to the classroom. And I was like, why is that a problem? And he was like, well, for the last 6 years, I've been in junior police rangers where they drop me into a forest and get me to find my way back to camp. And instantly I got it. What they were trying to teach him is stuff he already knew. And as a result, he was labeled delinquent, he was labeled disengaged, he was labeled a D student, and he was failing. Why? Because he wasn't engaged. And I saw something in him. I said, what do you want to do? He's like, I just want to build computers. I'm like, cool, I have a project for you. So he comes to work for me. And first thing I did was I taught him how to think. Because he just didn't think, hey, seriously. So I taught him how to think. I taught him a whole bunch of other stuff. And all of a sudden, he built my beautiful training center. And we went on to train 160 business owners, right? And it was great. Then he got cocky. And he's like, I'm working for AJ Black Magic, yeah. And so I fired him, right? Because I can't handle that stuff. I got no time for that. I got no time for egos. So I fired him. And then later on, I saw this tweet from him and he said, yeah, you know, I used to work for this brilliant business person and I never knew what the hell he was on about. But now I do. Thanks, AJ. So I was like, cool. You learned the lesson. Then he came back to see me and I said, hey, champ, how you going? And he's like, yeah, good. I have some news. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I just signed 100 clients. This kid's 14 years old. I said, how the hell did you sign 100 clients? And he told me, and I don't have time to go into the story. It's a good story, but anyway, just know that he signed 100 clients, right? And I was like, wow, that's amazing. And then I caught up with him a few years later. I said, how's business going? He goes, yeah, I gave that up. And then when he said, yeah, I gave that up, I'm like, what happened? He goes, I got bored. I'm like, cool. But his phone keeps buzzing. And I was like, what's going on with your phone, man? You got dating like 100 girls too? And he's like, nah, man, they're clients. I said, hang on, clients? What are you talking about? Like, I thought you gave up business. He goes, no, I started something else. Like, what did you start? He goes, listen, things got wild at this party, and I dropped my phone and broke it, and then I took it to the store, and it was going to cost like $600 to fix it, and then I just thought, I don't have $600, so I hopped on eBay, I bought a kit, and I repaired my phone, and then stupid me put it on Facebook, and now everyone wants me to repair their phone. I was like, wow, you making any money out of this? He goes, yeah, a couple of grand. I'm like, for the year or what? He goes, nah, a week. I said, is that revenue or is that profit? He goes, what's the difference? Fast forward, a few years later, I catch up with him. And, I say, hey, champ, how's it going? And then he goes, yeah, good. I'm off to South Korea. I'm like, what the hell are you going to South Korea for? How old are you, 19? He goes, yeah, I'm 19. Why are you going to South Korea? He goes, well, AJ, there's this thing called the E-Games, right? And it's like a $30 billion empire. And if I could just get a slice of it, I'd be happy. I'm like, yeah, good on you, champ. Cool. So he goes off, does his E-Game thing, right? And then I get a phone call from him the next year. And now he's about 2021. And I don't do phone calls, but if he rings, I answer because something's not right. So I answered and he's like, hey man, listen, I'm in a bit of trouble, things aren't working out and I'm gonna have to give up business and get a job. And I just wanted to let you know that I just really didn't want to let you down. I'm sorry. And I was like, listen man, you don't ever need to be sorry with me, okay? Entrepreneurs do whatever it takes. We do whatever it takes. So if you need to get a job, man, you got my blessings. Let me know if I can open up doors for you, right? I always got your back. And he's like, cool, thanks, AJ. Cool, phone down. Went on. Caught up with him the next year, right? And I say, hey, man, how's the job going? And he goes, yeah, funny story. Well, you know that thing you said about entrepreneurs do whatever it takes? Well, I took a look at my business and I realized that I didn't need to shut it down. I just needed to get rid of it. So I sold it. I was like, you sold your business? He's like, yep. So I'm like, what are you doing now? He goes, well, funny story. The people I sold it to, they don't know how to run this business. So they hired me back as the CEO. I was like, damn, that's deep. Now, I share that story with you because here's a kid, Robert, that's failing school. He's struggling with traditional environments. He's labeled disengaged, delinquent. Why? Because he went through the same challenge that I did. But unlike me, he had someone to look out for him. And because I taught him how to think like an entrepreneur, he had an amazing business and an amazing life. Now, I share that story with you because every single one of us here in the room today, we're like Robert. We always have dreams and ambitions and things that we want to achieve in life. But sometimes we just need that person to give us some guidance. That could be your teachers, could be your friends, could be your teachers, friends, parents. And I'm hoping that after today, you'll add me to that list too. That's the power of entrepreneurship. And it wasn't just me and Robert. We found these kids here in Darwin that also had the same troubles. They were labeled disengaged, delinquent, whatever. And we put together Young Entrepreneurs Day, and together we built this thing. We helped them, helped them think like entrepreneurs. It was very cool. So think like an entrepreneur, change your life and change the world because you can. That's the opportunity there for you now. My time is up, so I'm going to leave you to it. This is my email address. Take it down. Get in touch with me whenever you want. My name is AJ Kulatunga. I'm a young achiever entrepreneur, and thank you so much, all of you, for being a part of my dreams.